This is the Variety Sports Network, created for the fans, by the fans. Now to your host of tonight's show.
And welcome to week 3, Talking the Gridiron here on Variety Sports Network, brought to you by Row 1 Brand. We're actually in the dugout studio tonight, believe it or not. And I got my guy with me, of course, not a Broncos fan, everybody, making this clear, just a Colorado reporter tonight, Jimmy Pilato from our End of the Bench podcast, one of the best, hardest working men in the business. He's always with me on Talking the Gridiron. Jimmy, how are we doing tonight?
It's another week to talk football, and also preseason hockey started today. So that gives you an idea as to where we're sitting currently with our football season. I said it on our show. He's looking forward to, I think he said October 24th is when NBA season starts. I don't want to talk. No. They don't get they get none of my breath wasted on them. I'm absolutely out on that. I didn't think there were too many great matchups. There was a couple surprises, but overall, I don't know. Between Saturday and Sunday, it was another solid weekend of football. My team got done early. We had the scoreboard shut off by the third quarter, and they just called it by the start of the fourth quarter. So that was exciting.
You got done then a little bit early. I would say today in the NFL was a little bit weird. I don't know if you guys noticed it. I felt like the first half of the first games, there was like a little lull there, and then we had these comebacks a little bit in that first, right? It wasn't.
I was watching the Dolphins Broncos. There was not a lull. What are you talking about?
That was on locally here too. Yeah, and so that was the game I got. Thank you, Moster. You were fantastic for me. So we'll get into just all those different things, and of course, we got Brian, the main man Johnson. Brian, feel a little lighter on our feet this week. How are we doing?
Yeah, I'm doing a lot better. I didn't go out this time. It didn't have tears when I came home. So,
that a boy. Hey,
dancing in the moonlight. Everybody's knows what they feel on a Friday night. Yeah, that's Brian's existence for the past 3 weeks.
we got the height. We'll call it Heineken Brian at that point. That's what we get at Brian here on that one. We get Brian for that one. So Brian, we got a lot to get into this week on the NFL. Jimmy, a lot to get into as well. What do you want? Let's start right there with the Dolphins Broncos game. I feel like I want to start there because you don't see a 70 burger that often in the NFL. And it kind of goes to my biggest point of today is are the Dolphins possibly the AFC's best team? I know this is early. I know they're 3-0. I got off to a hot start last year, and I know they were playing the Broncos. But if you could maybe touch on both there a little bit on that game today where Miami just crushes them.
Obviously, Miami is under this system now for the second year. They have a better understanding of what they're trying to do, and Tua did look very comfortable. And today proved that that was, you don't get to 70 in the NFL. You don't get to 70 that easily. It was running the ball, passing the ball. Mike McDaniel had a perfect scheme. Sean Payton and the Broncos coaching staff, including Vance Joseph, who I think is probably going to be taking a majority of the blame. There's a lot of blame going around at George Payton at this point because how in the hell do you have nobody on your roster? Even your backup should be competent to be able to stop somebody, and you have everyone on the Dolphins score. Tua didn't play for an hour and a half at the end of the game because he got pulled at the beginning of the third quarter, and then you had Mike White dice you up for 2 more touchdowns after that. You had to celebrate a kickoff return down 52-6 or 52-13. What are we doing? It's the most embarrassing performance. It's the most embarrassing weekend. So we go from last weekend where I was giving Colorado all that credit about how well the football is being played between CU and CSU, and then this weekend Oregon comes in and absolutely punks CU. So now that we're going to have to deal with that, and I gave the main VSN account, it's fun to say that, I called this now. Where you were just jumping on the bandwagon 2 weeks ago. Don't start all of a sudden hating Dion because you're pissed off and you're upset about 1 week. That's what should have happened. It was uglier than it needed to be. But then today with the Dolphins, Tyreek from the third play in the game showed you that this was going to be nothing more than just an embarrassing outing for one of the, I think people were saying it. I heard a couple of my family members say it. That's the worst beating that they've taken since those Super Bowls. I think the 89 Super Bowl against the 49ers when Montana absolutely crushed Denver, that was probably the last time that they've been beaten this profoundly on both sides of the ball.
And the receiver, what was it, Sutton? He got 2 fumbles as well. You don't even see that very often from a guy receiving there. Brian, what do you make of the Dolphins? Do you think they are possibly the AFC's best team?
Yeah, right now, but always with the Dolphins, you guys see how they do in the second half of the season, and can Tua stay healthy? And
Jiu-jitsu is on point.
They mentioned that a lot today, didn't they?
He's a 3rd degree Jiu-jitsu black belt.
when they had Kevin Harlan on the call today, he did mention that a little bit.
I was so upset. I picked the Broncos in our pick'em solely for the fact that I would have gotten a game back on Nico where I picked the Broncos and he would have picked the Dolphins. He's obviously going to win the pick'em this year, and I'm just going to continue to wallow in misery. I'm like Uncle Rico.
How many years have you lost this thing?
How many years have we done the podcast? 3.5, 4?
All right, so I guess that's the worst way to do it. That's the worst beating since the 2014 Super Bowl against Seattle. That's what Rev got there. That was a pretty good beating as well. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. That was a good one.
They've gotten – that's the shitty thing about being I'm not – again, Daren said at the beginning of the show, I'm not the Broncos fan. We had a Broncos fan on last week. We could have – it's going to be like pulling teeth. It's going to be a full-on therapy session this Thursday on Far End of the Bench, which everybody should check out when it happens. But you got your ass kicked in a lot of Super Bowls. So much so that when you say, yeah, remember when the Broncos got killed in the Super Bowl, you have to go, which one? Which time? Was it the 49ers? Was it the Giants? Was it the Seahawks? Was it the Redskins? Yeah, I forgot about the Redskins one in there.
Yep, they've had a few in there. That's why it was always surprising when they beat the Packers in '98. But this one's for John. So, hey, are they the Dolphins? Jimmy, Brian says he thinks they'll fade out a little bit come second half. Is this team a little bit different now? This is their second year, starting to get off to a hot start. I mean, it's not like the Bills have. I mean, they look a little better, but they look a lot better. But I still think the Dolphins could play with them in that division now, especially with the Jets now. Complete disaster. So what do you kind of make of that Dolphins? Do you think they really could give a push here?
I want to see their running game later on in the season, because that's my issue with Miami all the time, is that they start the season off great because it's nice weather everywhere. They're playing in Miami today, so it's a fast track, and they are that's the fastest football team I think I've ever seen assembled. Every single person. Like Robbie Anderson caught a touchdown pass from Mike White, and he ran away from every single DB that the Broncos had on the field. So speed is unquestionable. I don't know if they're – what?
I don't even think Waddle was even in today.
No, Waddle was out. Thank you for reminding me. He was going to be in one of my fantasy lineups, and I ended up getting trounced because I couldn't play him. But, I just want to see, because I think their run game was successful today. I think that's partially because the Broncos – they have some of the worst defensive scheming from their defensive line that I've seen. It's like they're all trying to play 2 gaps, which is stupid, especially at the professional level, because all it takes is 1 second. If you're blocked out of a gap for 1 second, the running back has a hole and he's gone. And that's what we saw early on in this game. I don't know if it's going to – I think you're going to see it change when they have never, Tyler, go away with that.
What did he say? I missed it. Oh, what are they talking about? That's gonna go to the do's and don'ts segment, John. That'll be later on, maybe possibly. I do like the Kelsey podcast.
I do like that one too.
It's like Jessica Simpson when she showed up to see Tony Romo.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot.
Yeah,
about
except
that.
Kelsey actually performed.
Yeah. Oh.
Are we not allowed to say that Tony Romo is one of the least clutch football players of all time?
Oh, I think that's where we like to go on this one. I think that it kind of loosens up a little bit. Hey, real quick, Jimmy, on the Broncos side, though, do you think Stidham, is there any way he starts next week after a loss like this, or would they not embarrass Wilson like that?
No,
his numbers weren't that bad.
No, it's not. It wasn't Wilson today. Today was the defense, and today was an absolute lack of mental toughness.
Yeah. Did you notice, because you said you were watching a little bit of the game, just from a home field, when the way they built the stadium, that the way the sun was on the Denver sideline and the way the shade was able to sit on that, even though it's 90 degrees, at least you're not just sitting in, sun the whole time. So I just thought that was kind of a funny advantage they took.
It could have been, but here's the thing. Today, it didn't matter. Today, I don't think it mattered. It was I don't know how Vance Joseph got hired back after his abysmal tenure here before. Because when he was the head coach here, it's not like the defense was great either. Vic Fangio had the defense doing well. We thought coming into the season, the defense, they were talented enough to be a strength of this team. And the last 2 weeks, your defense has absolutely laid an egg in both matchups. You gave up a 21-point lead to go down by 14 last week. You get housed 70 to 21 today. And it's just
rough.
There's nothing there was nothing that they could have done. So I don't think Wilson deserves to lose his job after this week. You know who I think deserves to lose his job after this week is Vance Joseph. He shouldn't have been allowed to be in the locker room after the game. Like, give me you can go collect your things when we get back to Denver. You're not riding the team plane. We have a ticket for you. You're flying coach because, oh my God, this sucked. You are awful. You have zero prep and you have zero adjustment for anything that Miami was doing. You want to play zone defense against the 5 fastest guys in football? Sure. Go ahead. That's what happens.
Cortland Sutton.
Has Sean Payton even made a difference on this team yet?
Sean Payton, I think he makes a difference because it was a debacle on the field. It's not the issue today wasn't not getting the play in on time and having to count down the offense on the play clock. That was why last year sucked. So you see the benefit in being able to have the plays called and they look like they should be actual football plays. You never intend for your receiver to fumble twice, and you never intend for your defense to just not be able to stop a 5th grade offense. I think those are just 2 random outliers. I do think Sean Payton's been good. What I think, honestly, if the season continues like this, he's just going to – I think this was a year where they're trying to meld the old ownership and last year's team with what Sean Payton wants to do. If it doesn't work out that way, Sean Payton's the kind of coach that's just going to sever ties and he's going to bring in everybody that he wants, and we'll see what he actually wants the franchise to look like. He's going to get that chance before they give up on him as the head coach. They gave up too much. They gave him too much money for his contract.
No doubt. As we kind of move on from that game a little bit, like I said, that game I kind of wanted to focus on a little bit because it's just kind of a rare score there. Broncos 0-3, just a real disaster. Dolphins 2-0. Anybody?
I'm sure you're so heartbroken. So heartbroken that the Broncos are 0-3.
I was telling my dad today because I saw him today, and I was like, we were talking about that, Jimmy, because he knew I was coming out with you. He's like, yeah. But he just, like I said, I'm like, he's not even a Broncos fan, so it doesn't really matter. But he's like, yeah, 70-20, man, that feels good. Like I said, that's the team I hate the most. So it definitely felt good to see them have a low point like that. Sutton, not one of your best. 2 fumbles, and he had a ball go through his hands in the back of the end zone. Not one of his best games of all time. Hey, I have it as game of the day because it's just kind of a typical ending. Like I said, Jimmy, this team, when I think of Vikings, Chargers when they're 0-2, it's like which team could lose the best? Like, you know what I mean? Like, how can we figure out to be better at losing than the other team? And the Chargers tried. Staley again with 2 minutes left, Brian and Jimmy. He goes for it at the 25-yard line on 4th and 1, his own, and he misses it. But of course, Jimmy, Cousins can't make it done. Kind of forces it there in the end zone, gets tipped, intercepted. What'd you make of this game, Jimmy?
Basically, what we all expected, what we all said going into it. You needed to win. Both teams needed to win this game, but this doesn't get you off the hook. This just keeps you. You've made it past the elimination round. It's like those old reality shows like Ink Master. You were in the bottom 2. You didn't get voted off this week, but next week you are still at large of being eliminated. You better show us something. You better make your next tattoo the best. Otherwise, you will be leaving. You will be voted out. Auf Wiedersehen. Goodbye. We do not need you here because there's plenty of teams that are going to turn themselves around. If you're going to be a team that continues to just hang out there, the Chiefs continue to win, whether we think that they're as good as they have been or not. Chargers need to continue to win. The Raiders, if they want to actually compete for the playoffs, need to win. The Broncos don't deserve to be mentioned in that breath anymore. They may as well be just in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes already because of what I saw this afternoon. But that's what the Chargers are up against. So it was hopefully he's able to stave off elimination again next week. I think you're just going to have to continually do this. You're on The Bachelor. Hopefully you get a rose. Brandon Staley, if you don't get a rose, you don't get back on the jet. And I'm sorry it didn't work out. You'll be the single person during the next season when we do The Bachelorette.
I think these analogies are beating mine from last week.
I know. I was going to say.
I must have watched some Colin Cowherd, or I was listening to it when I was asleep or something.
I was going to say that sounds like a Brian Bachelor comment right there. That's Jimmy. I like you're getting it. You're getting all of it. Brian, what did you make of the game? 24 real quick. Vikings dead.
Yeah, they're. I don't know if
You
you're
still have players, man. It's weird.
if you're the Vikings at this point, like you're probably thinking like this is. Do we just start to blow it up and get in rebuild mode and try to build around Jefferson?
They just traded for Akers, though, didn't they? Is that a big deal at all? It seems like they're still going
that's
for it.
getting Cam Akers. That doesn't mean it's going to put you in the Super Bowl, right?
I drafted Cam Akers in my fantasy league last year. It doesn't mean shit.
I just mean doesn't mean they're going for it still. Like, because I mean, if you have Cousins, it's not like you're playing for like a one. And they have Jefferson. That would be like your dangerous team. But like they won so many close games last year, it was only a matter of time for this year for it to go the other way. I felt, Jimmy, when we did the show every week, it was like the Vikings pull out another 1-point game. They pull out another 2-point game.
It happens every year. There's a different team every year. Go ahead.
Yeah. I don't know what's with the Chargers trying to give games away. I remember like a couple years ago against the Raiders, that last game where they're
Yep. Hey, Jimmy, do you have another one for game of the day today? Is there a game that stood out to you that maybe just kind of caught your attention?
I ended up finishing the day watching the Seahawks-Panthers game, and it was more entertaining than I thought it was going to be. The Seahawks do look good. The Seahawks look like they're going to be frisky. If they can beat the other teams besides the 49ers, and, Carroll tends to do fairly decently against San Francisco, they could be right up there. I see them in the playoff spot, the second playoff spot out of that division, and Geno Smith does look – week one aside, which everybody kind of looks like crap and you have to take it and move on, but they looked very good. Pete Carroll, obvious he wasn't the problem in Seattle when Russ struggled that last season. I think that's been put to bed. That's been put to rest. And Seattle, you duped us. You duped the shit out of everybody, especially everybody here. We were all super excited.
I thought you're right about Geno Smith too. Like, he's I thought for sure it was going to be kind of a fake kind of year. And after the first week, I'm like, yeah, that's the way it goes. But I mean, they put up 230 burgers, right 30 points right now, back-to-back weeks now. That's pretty good against the Lions. I know the Panthers don't have a terrible defense. I know Shaq Thompson was out this week, but I don't know. You're right. That's a good call on their part to go to 2-1. And
shout out to Andy Dalton too, because the announcers were saying it, Ian Eagle and Charles Davis, it might not mean anything because they're not going to be able to get back and win this thing, but scoring that last touchdown and putting together drives when you're totally out of the game and your defense isn't going to get a stop because they haven't been able to get a stop all day, but you continue to play. Unlike what we saw in the Bronco game, the Panthers continued to play. Andy Dalton continued to lead that team, and they ended up getting points that they wouldn't have had otherwise.
It's funny, Packers, the Saints in that one as well. I had that as my next game of the day. I had that with that 17-0. They were up, and then they end up blowing the game late. Carr goes down. No comment on that. Nobody.
It's okay. They got Jameis Winston behind him.
I'm sure Daren enjoyed every minute of that one.
They're eating dubs now. They're not. They were close.
But how about the Packers though, Jimmy? I mean, just a little resolve though. Doesn't that win mean a little bit now? 2-1. I mean, I don't know. To me, that shows a little hard.
That division is so much weaker than we thought it was. There is whoever wins, there's no real depth because Chicago sucks. Green Bay has had 2 tough games, and I know the Saints were 2-0 coming into the game. They're in the talk for their division. I still haven't really seen anything to show me that they're a legit playoff team that you can test yourself against. And I would still lean towards the Lions because I liked what I saw from them more than what I've seen from the Packers. The Packers seem like they're lucking into these wins a little bit more. But we mentioned it with the Vikings. There's a team every year that just gets lucky every week. They go on a run. Sometimes they go on a run to the championship game. Sometimes they go on a run just to the playoffs. Like the Titans in 2018, that was a run that came to an end in the championship game. The Bengals in 2021. Last year was the Vikings. This year, maybe it's the Packers. Who knows?
I think the Packers, it's interesting. That I do agree with Rev. It did show a little heart in that comeback, though, even when you're down 17-0. Brian, if Carr's out, do you think Winston could keep him going?
No, they're in deep trouble.
30 for 30. 30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions.
I had a feeling that was going to be
But,
Jimmy.
I am impressed with what I've seen from Jordan Love so far. He looks like he could be a legit starter in the league.
It's weird. It's almost like that LaFleur knows how to call plays.
Maybe
And if
so.
he doesn't get shook, he's not getting shaken off by his quote ace pitcher. He's not a bad catcher. He can call a decent game.
Brian, did you watch the end of the Colts-Ravens game, or did you see that at all?
Yeah, man. I don't know what's with the Ravens. They were not calling anything outside the numbers all day.
What a shock. They do this at times. It's like
they do that to the Ravens in particular.
Yeah.
And I think I know the reason why.
Because their quarterback?
No, not because their well, I don't think their quarterback throws the ball in good enough spots to get the calls. Like, you can tell the difference between a good quarterback and an elite quarterback, because the elite quarterback can use his receivers to gain yards on a ball he never is going to complete, because you can throw it and the receiver has to fight for it and it draws a penalty. So I think that's one issue. But the receivers they're not open.
Yeah.
His receivers don't get open. And then when they don't get open all day, I'm less likely to call a pass interference penalty, because I don't know if they interfered with you. You haven't been able to do anything. So I just think he's locking you up. Like, he locked you up the entire rest of the game. If you're Baltimore, I told you last week the Bengals played like garbage. You got a decent win. I couldn't fault you for being 2-1, but that doesn't mean that you were home clear. Yeah. You still had issues. You still have injuries. Now you need to make sure that, because you're looking behind yourself at the two Ohio teams that are chomping at the bit. And by the way, the Steelers have a lead right now on Sunday Night Football coming out of halftime. You still have teams that are going to be chasing you down. You are by no means done after a week 2 win against the Bengals.
As you mentioned that, we'll get this. I'll kind of put it up here once in a while.
Immaculate reception. Immaculate reception.
Thank God I wasn't alive for that one.
Second half Jimmy.
Jimmy
Here we
G.
go, Brian. All we do is win right now. This is all we do.
I don't want to be lumped in. Garoppolo loves Vegas. Oh, shocker. There's porn stars and casinos. It's hard to figure out what he doesn't like about Las Vegas.
His favorite team of all time right there. Yeah, you're right. 13-7 there. Yeah, Steelers hold that lead over the Raiders. Raiders again. And again, that's part of the thing when I turned on the radio real quick coming home as the game started, and it sounds like they're playing the game in Pittsburgh, for goodness sake. So this whole Vegas home field advantage thing is ridiculous.
It's not a home field advantage, but it was never set up to be one.
No,
it's set up to sell out every week.
Never to do anything like that with it. Hey, I got some contenders, pretenders things. I know it's early, so I just kind of want to pick teams. And Jimmy, you just go like yes or no, and then if you just kind of where you feel with it. So first one I have Colts, because we just talked about that game, Jimmy. Do you think they actually could be a contender, or is that a complete pretender?
Pretender.
Complete.
They're
okay.
a pretender.
2-1, beat the Ravens. That's why I say, yeah.
They could be a team that gets lucky, but they're not a team that's going to win because of their talent.
Brian, Jaguars, contender.
Right now, they're looking like a pretender. I mean, you laid an egg against Houston. That was a bad game.
That was not one of their best games of all. Houston, C.J. Stroud looking really good in that game.
Stroud boys stand up.
He looked pretty good there.
Yeah, he was top 5 in the NFL in passing, which surprised me.
Yeah, no, he was.
Jimmy, one of these Ohio State quarterbacks can throw the ball.
Speaking of Ohio, Jimmy, I'm going to give you the Browns. I know you don't like talking about, but contender or pretender, do you think the Browns is possibly one?
Seems like their system is set up to go without Nick Chubb, with or without Nick Chubb in the lineup. I'm hesitant because they seem to be injured and they seem to continue to be injured. But Myles Garrett, that defense that they've revamped, if Deshaun Watson doesn't play like he did 2 weeks ago and he continues to play like he has been, massages aside, he will make that team very dangerous for other teams. You know, we play them again week 17. That's going to be just as much of a test as it was week 1. So the Browns they have the ability to be contenders, and that's minus their best player on offense.
Our guy Rev here tuning in with it. Appreciate you, Rev. CJ Stroud and playing well with no offensive line. Kudos to him. That's how these young quarterbacks kind of like what they do, right? They got to avoid the fire a little bit early on, like that.
5 Ds of dodgeball: dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge.
Exactly.
I've been disappointed with Bryce Young so far. I don't know.
Well, I think this is showing just how Well, then again, Andy Dalton did score quite a few points with this bad roster. Like Thielen as your number one receiver at this point, that's not what he's supposed to be. He should be your veteran number 3. He should be like a Anquan Bolden, Vincent Jackson type, not trying to be the number 1 in Carolina. You need talent back. You traded all your talent away.
What do you guys think, Brian? We already talked about the Packers. What do you think about the Rams? Are you in on the Rams as a contender or a pretender?
Yeah, they can be contenders just because the NFC's weaker this year. So
the South on it, yeah. Well, they actually look pretty good in some of those matches there.
That Puka guy, he's pretty
Puka
good.
Nakua.
He looks really good. Yeah, no, he does look good. Those were a couple of games there. Just a few of the other games we didn't touch on. Obviously, Browns, they blew out the Titans, like we said. Patriots, they won an ugly fest. What do you think about the Jets there, Jimmy, just from the standpoint of Zach Wilson? There's no way you can keep running this guy out. At some point, you just got to make this change, right?
I tell my brother, because he's the Jets fan, every time I see him, just walk past him and go, "You like that? Do you like that? You like watching that?"
I just don't get it. You can't have it in there.
You can't like it. If you don't like that, I know a guy that's probably looking for a way out because he needs another contract, and I don't think Minnesota's giving it to him again.
Yeah.
You can't tell me that they wouldn't be pretty dangerous if they had Kirk Cousins at quarterback instead of the MILF hunter himself, Zach Wilson 3000.
Man, that would be but even for Cousins to come in that late, but yes, it's better than Wilson for sure. You know, you got to be able to make it, but then you have to give up that trade. It's a lot.
I think, yeah. I mean, I don't know how much you'd have to give. You don't have to, because if they don't give it to you, then they just lose Kirk Cousins. So this way you can give them a second, third round pick, probably a guy that plays. You're not giving away your cornerstone pieces. You're not giving anybody away that's going to take you off the Super Bowl contender. But I don't think Minnesota is going to be too hard pressed to sell on that because they've gotten everything that they needed to out of it. They've gotten as much as they could get out of this Kirk Cousins $84 million bubble.
Oh yeah. Hey, Jimmy, can I say instead of contender or pretender, can we do relevant? About the Bears getting just spanked again, not even showing life. Tyler was right about that one, Brian, when we met. But Jimmy, goodness, just absolutely spanked. They get $100,000 stolen from their stadium this week. They lose. The defensive coordinator quits. Not a good week in Chicago.
Yeah.
I think they stole John Deere tractors. That's what I heard. So they stole those John Deere tractors. I have one at work. They could be effective. I can see why.
It's a bad look when the excuse you give for resigning is you need to take care of health concerns, and then 20 minutes later it's leaked that you probably the FBI's involved.
Yeah,
that's not. Yeah, I would have a health concern. I'd be anxious as hell because I have the FBI staring at me trying to find. I mean, I'm Henry Hill checking for helicopters at that point. So they're relevant just because all of the weird shit that's going on. And it's such a, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a equivalent. They're like the Toronto Maple Leafs, I guess. I mean, that'll be the equivalent. They're the Toronto Maple Leafs of the NFL, where they had some success and they won a couple championships a long time ago. Since then, they're always trying to be relevant. It's a big media market, but it tends to beat down the athletes. They don't really appreciate them. They haven't had any success now, and they seem to lose in the dumbest fashion.
And Brian, they never have a quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, I still can't believe I took him to win the division. What was I thinking?
And I was just kind of thinking, you're thinking, Rev, is Fields actually broken? I don't know. Like, he took a shot. It was 41-0. The game just happened to be on where I was kind of watching TV with the game. He kind of dived in at the 5-yard line, and the guy just like, Jimmy, you're like 5 yards in the air. And then the defender's like, oh, perfect. I'll just slam you right into the ground. His shoulder goes right in there. He sits down. And then I'm just like, because even when you're a quarterback on these teams too, you lose a lot. Like, you can get beaten down mentally if you're not really strong there.
David
so,
Carr.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with Fields here. He might get broken, Rev. I do kind of feel like that might be coming down the stretch here with it. All right, hey, question of the week here real quick. Jimmy, best home field advantage in the NFL, just period. Like, when you just think, like, it doesn't even have to be now. Just when a team is freaking rolling. Like, is there a crowd that's like, you're like, oof, it's hard.
Can it be a stadium that no longer exists?
Sure.
the old Minnesota Stadium before they built the first dome, back when they had Fran Tarkenton and Bud Grant. No, yeah, before they had the Metrodome. Fran Tarkenton, Bud Grant. You have to go to Minnesota in January to play in the playoffs outside. Outside in minus 40. We talk about Lambeau Field having the advantage for being cold. I think St. Paul might be colder, especially at that time of year. That was that was also when they had the Purple People Eaters. I know I'm a sports nerd, and I'm going way back for everybody that's like older than anybody else who knows how to listen to a podcast can think of. But that's my favorite home field advantage. I would love to have played there, at least experienced a game there.
That's a good call there. And especially, like you said, in Minnesota, and there's no dome. My goodness there. Metrodome was a problem for our Twins with our A's played in Brian baseball side there. But question of the week, Brian, who do you got? Brought to you by Row One Brand. Best home field advantage.
I would definitely say Arrowhead when they're rolling.
They are. I feel like it. Mile High, I have to throw out there a little bit too. They're tough to play when they're rolling and their crowd's into it, and they have like a good defense too. Jimmy, Buffalo.
Are you talking about Arrowhead in daylight?
No.
Or back in 1989?
We can go way back then. That's where
it's pretty cool when they see it in red, though.
I always thought
is Tyler still listening, or did he shake us off?
He probably shake this off over here, or he can't comment because he's holding, or he's late, or he's with his fiance here on Sunday family night. So we have to, if they're watching on family night, I appreciate you guys tuning in here, talking the gridiron. Make that your family night special. Me, Jimmy, and Brian. Nothing says that like a family night special.
You can't say I didn't try. Now I tried to do the announcer thing where I use all the Taylor Swift albums I can think of.
Yeah, we got to get to those.
I've had a cool summer thinking that the Bengals were going to be good. But then they showed up, and they're just they're not. I knew they were trouble when they walked in.
Well done. Well done on that one. Hey, Seattle was up there. Everybody always said Seattle was a big one there, home field advantage with their part. I'm going to say Oakland Coliseum, Brian, just for the Raiders, when they were rolling there. That's the biggest. Jimmy, that's what I thought about when I turned on the radio, and it's like I could tell a big play happened, and it was the interception by Jimmy G. I was like. The crowd is excited. I was like, this is like, if that was Oakland, you wouldn't hear like, yeah, like it's like,
no, because if you cheer for the other team in Oakland, they stab you. They mark your seat and they find you and shank you. That was the home field advantage. It wasn't even. It was the fact that the grass sucked, and then the black hole scared the shit out of all the opposing fans. They're like, nope, not going over there. Thank you.
My brother told a story.
Another Jimmy pick right now.
Oh, thanks, Brian, for the update. 16-7. Can you comment when there's some good news there? I don't like that.
I just did the whole Taylor Swift. Tyler, you got to go back like 2 minutes. You'll find my Taylor Swift bit.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get Taylor. So yeah, we got it. That was a good question of the week there. Home field advantage. How about the jungle? No, the jungle doesn't have it's not quite a home field advantage.
The last few years, yes. Like the last couple, the playoffs, that first playoff game back. The roar of the crowd when Jermaine Pratt intercepts that ball and we officially win our first playoff game in 32 years, you can feel all the emotion. And there's a video that will pop up now on my Facebook for the rest of time that I'll be watching. It's one of those most cathartic experiences that I think I've ever felt. That was the home field advantage from the jungle there.
Sorry, Jimmy. I saw something the Raiders did first. And the thing is, like, they don't get any pressure. Sorry, I'm just like this team is just.
You have Max Crosby and no quarterback pressure.
It's just frustrating every time. Even against a team like that, he'll be checking it out. Yeah, it is funny that the rumors have been coming with that. I had best of the rest here. We kind of already touched on the game, most of the other games here. And after the only one, Jimmy, I wanted to kind of get your thoughts on real quick was Arizona beating Dallas. A little bit of a surprise there, right? I'd say maybe a big surprise, but you could say Arizona could easily be 2-1 if they just didn't play a little football in the second half last week against the Giants. So what do you make of the Cowboys coming up small? A bad kick by Dak Prescott. There were 7 minutes left in the game. A terrible throw got picked off in the end zone. But what do you make of Dallas? Just a regular loss or what?
I think it's a look ahead. And I think it gets skewed because in 2 weeks you have the 49ers, which hopefully they don't totally fall apart and that game loses its luster, because I'd like a Sunday night football game to be between teams that have actual stakes on the line. No offense, Daren, but Steelers and the Raiders aren't necessarily fighting for division championships.
We'll be 2-1. We'll be over 500. We'll be
for this week, and then everybody's going back to 500 or below 500 next week. I would like to. I would hope that it's just a look ahead. The injury, I believe Diggs got injured for the Cowboys, if I'm not mistaken, so he's going to be out. That sucks for their defense, but here's a good thing. You probably have the best football player in the entire world on your football team. Micah Parsons can play middle linebacker, edge rusher. He can be a slot nickel corner if you need to. He is all over the field. He can, if he was just a pass rusher, he'd be the number one sack leader in the NFL. If he was just a linebacker, he'd be the best middle linebacker in the NFL. If he was just a cover guy, he could probably lock down people all over the rest of the field. He's an absolute game changer. Didn't work today, and I want to give the Cardinals credit because they're not just tanking. They are still scrappy. Like they've been very physical in the games that they've played. But I think that the Cowboys are going to be using this as like if we think that we're that good, we're not. Even when we go 14-2, we're going to lose in the playoffs. So let's just remember we're the Cowboys, okay? We're not anybody else, and we have to play every game like we're disrespected. Because as soon as you start to feel like you're not disrespected, your team falls apart every single season.
They have the big injury, obviously, the Diggs, the cornerback this week. Terrible announcing by somebody on ESPN. I forget who it was taking a cheap shot at. Brian, you guys play the Cardinals next week. We got here Rev pointing out this point that he was kind of the laughing stock here. He does have them playing hard. Tyler also tuning in. John Dannon has the team ready to go. So you guys play them next week. I feel like when this happens, it's kind of an advantage for you guys as the favorite. Like the team came off a win against a big team. So I feel like if I was a fan of the Niners, I feel like this is a win that you guys should get. But do you think the Cardinals, who have, Brian, you got to admit, have played you guys tough, do you think they'll give you guys a tough game this week, or do you think you guys will show up and outperform?
I don't know. It's at home, so I just feel like
they've played you tough there too. They've played you tough, and they're
not last year. We demolished you guys twice.
But maybe I'm thinking about
Mexico City, man.
I don't. Well, that doesn't count. That's out of state.
Wasn't Kyler Murray playing video games then? Wasn't that before the video game contract?
He was out of that one. He wasn't there.
We're getting Ayuk back, and Debo's going to be out there. It's going to be something like 40-10 or something. It's not even going to be close.
And the Pittsburgh Steelers are driving 5:09 left. They're on the Raiders 30-yard line, 16-7 already. Oh, gosh, Raiders. Just
13 carries for 38 yards, man. Najee Harris was a steal in that draft, huh?
And Jimmy, you know that as that Bengals fan, how I feel with this 20-year just run of just terrible football. There's nothing to look forward to. It's very frustrating with it. But Colt McCoy, he gets a reference here on the game here. Gives me nightmare.
On the team anymore.
No, maybe they'll bring him back. Him and Josh McCown.
Rolando McClain, was that who injured him in the national championship and started the Bama dynasty? Am I remembering that correctly?
An X-rated linebacker, first round pick. Not a good pick there at all. All right, so they have that game. We have the Cowboys there, Brian. That's hey, anytime the Cowboys get a loss, you got to like that one for you on the standings over there. Jimmy already mentioned the other afternoon game earlier between the Panthers and the Steelers. That actually was a pretty entertaining game for that part. Hey, look into the news and notes here. We kind of talked about this already, but again, Carr went down with his injury. We'll see what happens with that. Jimmy has the saying, the 30 for 30 Winston is in. It'll be curious what happens with them moving forward with it. Jimmy Chubb does officially he'll go in for surgery. It looks like it's just the MCL, which is good for him. It's not all the other three things. So again, though, it's going to be a hard recovery for him going forward, and for running backs, you just never know what's going to happen with him. So
he shouldn't play the rest of the season. I get the temptation to play in the playoffs if it gets that point. That injury, there was a reason Willis McGahee was trending. And if you're somebody that's not as obsessed of a sports fan, as I'm sure the three of us are and haven't seen those few videos, Willis McGahee, Kevin Ware, there's a few injuries where you're like, you remember exactly what happened and where you were. And that one, after finding the video, I was at practice when it actually happened live, but seeing the video afterwards, it wasn't great. I thought that we were going to see a lot worse of an injury come out, but I guess Nick Chubb is not human. He's just made out of stone. Oh,
not good for the Raiders.
23-7 now as they get into the end zone here.
You guys are killing me in the pick'em, Daren.
I mean, and we get off to a 7. That's the thing with the Raiders. Like, it feels like they have a good. They have what they call it, the good first 15 plays there, Jimmy. They practice that well. Then after that, we're not able to. We're up 7-0 on the Bills, 7-0 our first. So we've got up 7-0 every time, and then we go old Jimmy G style here, and we're not able. And then again, the Raiders defense again, like they're not stopping anybody when they're getting turned. They're not making plays. Like they're not getting interceptions like the Steelers are. Like that's always my most frustrating part.
I don't take anybody seriously that's hired Josh McDaniels as their head coach.
And Mark Davis, he does have a little better.
And I don't take the Broncos seriously for doing that, and I don't take the Raiders seriously for doing that, and I don't take the Colts seriously for doing that, even though he never showed up to work.
And that's why people are like, hey, you can host Talking the Gridiron stress-free. I'm like, yeah, like I don't have a team involved ever in the NFL playoff. Like I was at the last playoff game with my dad in 2002, for goodness sakes. Are you kidding me? Like that's their last playoff win. That's ridiculous. I was like 5. Yeah, exactly. I was a senior night. That should not happen. That should not happen. That I'm a senior in high school. That's the last time I have a playoff win. So and then we got Rev here with the Steelers, like every year making the playoffs in the fight for the Super Bowl.
Here's the good thing. Because I know you hate the Steelers too.
Yeah, I do.
It's dropped from Mike Tomlin always makes the playoffs to Mike Tomlin just finishes above 500, and now it's going to be Mike Tomlin has these guys playing hard, and at some point he's probably just going to resign and say, the standard is no longer the standard and the message has gone stale. And for that, I'm going to be taking my endeavors to a future location. It's like, Mike, you just say you resign, big guy. You don't need it's not a haiku. You don't need 535 on your syllables. I got school tomorrow.
They did say there's some Steelers representatives scouting the Oregon Colorado game because I guess they seem interested in Bo Nix.
Oh gosh, that wouldn't be it. I'm not
28-year-old quarterback. A 28-year-old with 4 kids.
Nice. I thought he was 38.
No, he's not the worst. It is that was his 51st game of college football. Well, dude, if I played 51 games of anything, I feel like I'd be pretty damn good by the end of it. Especially if I've been at these D1 facilities getting trained by these guys for 8 years, and now I get to make money doing it. If I was Bo Nix, I would petition. Did you see that guy from Miami that's petitioning the NCAA for a 9th year of eligibility? What are you studying? What are you studying?
Who was the kicker on Colorado State? He was like 31, right? The guy right there. He was like, I think he was like 31, the kicker. All right. So Raiders 23, down 23-7. We'll see if they can get a little run here. A little Jimmy G magic. Get a little Jimmy G magic late here. Maybe do what the Packers did to the Saints. Pull it out. We'll check back on that one in just a second as the Raiders drive is going to get going here.
It does. I will respond to that, Tyler, by saying I forget that Bo Nix was a true freshman that first season at Auburn. He was like 17, just coming off of early graduating of high school before he starting at Auburn University. So it is a little bit skewed.
Up Tyler's alley here with Taylor Swift. I did have a musical question here. We do have Usher announced, Jimmy. He is performing here at the Super Bowl halftime show. Are you excited about this in any way? Do you know too many Usher songs?
I want it to be like old Usher, like Confessions. I want it to be with Lil Jon and Ludacris. It needs to be there. Maybe he can make it with somebody that's new. Maybe he does it with new people instead of the old guys. I'm expecting. I really enjoyed the Eminem, Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg. I really like that one. So if it's something like that, if you're gonna bring an artist that's like this, who's now Usher, unfortunately, it's sad for me to say because he was like brand new when I was in school. He's getting to that point like the All-American Rejects where you're getting into like Hall of Fame legend status. So if it's legend status, I want to see his career played out through a medley of songs that he's performed.
That's great. I was trying to think. They said number 2 on his list was My Boo. That was his number 2 song there. My brother, like when I was reading, he's like, "You say it so white." He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "I'm sorry."
Tyler, why do you know this?
When Tyler got in here. My Way album, Usher. Tyler is a music. He's obsessed with that stuff, especially when we were younger. He knows a lot of the lyrics. I know you're an
R&B.
Eminem guy too. Yeah. Well, I don't know about R&B so much. I know.
That's
Especially
Usher's straight up R&B.
he is. Tyler. Maybe Tyler has a little soft side. I wasn't aware of or growing up over there with that. So yeah, we got Usher. He's announced he's singing the halftime show. I thought I had to bring that up on news and notes. We talked CJ Stroud. I did want to mention the stat though. I had it right here. He's the first quarterback in NFL history to have at least 900 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions in his first 3 games. Richardson was looking pretty good from the running aspect. He obviously went down, Jimmy, because the Colts don't care about that. So he got killed. He got knocked out there. Brian, I agree with you with Bryce Young kind of being a little inefficient there early on in the season. So we'll kind of see as the year moves on. There's always a few rookies that get some starts on later in the year that kind of come on and surprise people a little bit too. Hey, Jimmy, just real quick, because you were talking about trades. I don't know why this came in my head. Who was the guy that played for the Texans last year that was the starter? I forget. He like Mills or something like that, wasn't it? Like
Davis
Mills.
Like maybe that's something the Jets go. I don't know. I was just thinking about that real quick when I was thinking about him because we were talking Stroud.
Davis Mills doesn't. I think that he would be. I honestly don't know if he would be better than Zach Wilson, because you have to go in there and you have to be able to overcome Nathaniel Hackett as your offensive coordinator and play caller. And that's, I think, a little bit
Aaron
too much for
Rodgers defended him. He said he was a good offensive.
Aaron Rodgers was. We all know Aaron Rodgers doesn't. I continue to go back to the replacements, but Aaron Rodgers is Eddie Martell. It's like, I call the plays in the huddle, not you. That's bullshit. That's not the way I coach. I don't give a shit, because that's the way I play. That's Aaron Rodgers. So whatever Nathaniel Hackett was going to say, he might as well just be whispering sweet nothings into the microphone for 15 seconds. Aaron, you're so great. I'm so happy that you brought me here to New York with you. Oh, my God, you're getting sacked. Oh, my God, you popped your Achilles. Uh-oh, now I didn't game plan, Aaron. What are you doing? I didn't game plan this week. You game planned, not me.
I thought the greatest line in that movie was when he got sacked and the offensive lineman says, did you try scrambling? He says, how about a quick kick or something?
He's like, yeah. I got to watch that movie again now that Jimmy.
My brother and I were doing the Nigel, it's over the bar, not under. And my brother act like he putting out. He's like, hey, can you hold this? And on the sideline of our game, we're up by 50. So we were acting out the replacements. I thought I was about to start doing the electric slide on the sidelines too.
Oh man, that movie is so great though. Just it's a classic. There's just so many, unrealistic or not, there's just so many good lines in that one.
Shane Falco.
Rev here, Stroud's been good, but Pittsburgh will give him headaches next week.
Rev wants us to continue to talk about real football. He's tired of the football movie talk. He just wants real football.
Hey, that's gonna be real football. And like I said, Raiders got the ball here, making a little.
Too bad the Raiders and Steelers are playing, so we can't talk about real football.
Make a little one. How about real?
It doesn't matter what you think.
How about real football? Your Bengals, Joe Burrow's questionable on Monday. You think he'll go, or you think they'll sit him? What's your hunch? You know the team and the reporting and all that. What do you think?
There's been pictures of him riding around in the golf cart with Mike Brown. I'm torn because I think we have such a better chance of winning with him there, obviously. But you don't heal if you continually play in NFL games. And if it maybe takes 2 more weeks to heal, and you can hope that your backup quarterback can get 1 out of 2, so you're 1-3 maybe, instead of 0-5, then you can maybe bring him back in and it would mean something. I honestly hope he plays. I hope that, because if this thing is bugging him now, it's going to continue to bug him. Whether you take 2 weeks off in the middle of the season or not, this is going to be a nagging thing, because it's your throwing calf. It's the one on your right leg, the one that you push off of. So I would want him to play, and I just want the team to look interested in the first 30 minutes of the play. Because the Bengals the last few weeks have looked absolutely disinterested, unorganized, Bush League. There's a lot of different things you can call them, but it is not professional in that first and second quarter of the season so far.
So who do you got? Let's go right to it. Monday night doubleheader.
The Avalanche played their first preseason hockey game tonight. That's who I got.
That's who you got. So you're not. You think the Rams? I think you guys win this one. I think even if you guys have a backup, I think you guys show up on Monday night here to beat the Rams. Brian, what do you think? Let's give Jimmy a little confidence.
Yeah, I'm definitely the Bengals should be able to win that game pretty.
Is that because you don't want them to? You want them to beat the Rams?
I mean, I think they're going to be a little bit pumped up because of that. They played him in the Super Bowl a couple years ago.
And you don't want to go 0-3, and
Yeah.
you want to show up Darnold. You know, what I mean, you got to show up for this game. This one means more than just we're 0-3. This is the Rams. I agree with you, Brian. Jimmy, I do think your Bengals show up. I would agree why you're not confident, but I do think they show up even with a Burrow issue. I think the other guys step up and they get the job done for you guys on Monday night.
Neither of you have experienced Monday Night Football as a Bengals fan.
Only a Raiders fan.
I know. Last year on Monday Night Football, the Bengals played the Browns in Cleveland on Halloween night. Got absolutely killed.
Yes.
In 2019, I was watching the Monday night game between the Steelers and the Bengals, and it was Andy Dalton's last year as the starter. And Andy Dalton got sacked so hard from behind that his face pulled the pants of his right tackle's pants down. His face mask got caught so that it's every time that they play on Monday Night Football, they find a new way to disappoint you. They find a new way to go like, oh, okay, I guess I'm really being tested. Hopefully the years that we're good are really good, because the years that we're bad are awful. It's never been on a butt fumble level, but if you watch it as much as I do, and I've had Sunday Ticket for quite a while, so I've watched a lot of Bengals games, they always seem to do something that you don't expect, especially on Monday night. They just totally fall apart every single time.
You got to like it when your team's on Monday night, though, right? Like you get the 7:15 start, or no? Do you not like that Monday night start? You're not a fan of Monday night?
It's 6:20 here. I'm afraid of prime time.
That's right. You're only
I'm afraid of prime time. I'm afraid of Monday night. I'm okay with Thursday nights. Sunday Night Football the last couple of years hasn't been terrible, but Monday night is I've never experienced a calm Monday night of football with the Bengals. The one time that it was calm was the time that Ryan Shazier broke his neck. That was not calm on that side. Brian, what do you got for I know you picked the Bengals. What do you think about the other one, Philadelphia, Tampa Bay? Kind of a surprise battle of 2-0 teams. Can Mayfield get them to 3-0? Is this possible?
I think maybe this is where the Tampa Bay falls back down to earth, and I feel like Philly should be able to win this game pretty handily.
Tyler does pick out a good point. The writer strike is tentatively over, so does that mean the NFL might be able to have better writers for some of their games and their finishes?
No, that means they're going to revert back to the Bengals Monday night script.
Bengals.
That's why we call me Mr. Pessimistic.
Mr. Pessimist. Tyler that's the name you've given him, and it's lasted a long time. Hey, Tampa Bay. Yes, I agree. We'll get it. We'll see what they get there. I think, Jimmy, do you think there's any chance the Bucs pull it out?
Baker's looked good. Baker is the wild card. I said on our show it comes down to egos. If this offensive coordinator for Philadelphia can get over his ego and not have to turn Jalen Hurts into Joe Montana and just let him run and let this offensive line run block and pound people up front in the front seven like they do, then the Bucs are probably not going to be able to overcome that. But if they try and do what they did in week one in the first part of that Thursday night game, that's where Tampa Bay's chances of winning go way up. So it's all coming down to the play calling and the coordinator, in my mind.
So you say it's all coming down to Brian Johnson.
Brian Johnson, that's the guy. Your guy, Brian Johnson. I like it. We got your name is it's like John Smith. Your name. We can get 90 of them probably around there. You and John Smith, he
used to be a drummer for AC/DC. Brian Johnson
right there. That's good knowledge, Johnson. Hey, doubleheaders. I vote. Most people, when I did a poll for it, most people said no, they don't want a doubleheader. They'd rather have.
Why would I want two games meshed together at once?
That's the issue. Just put them apart or like I said, I do prefer this more than the Thursday night game. Just because the Thursday one the week is just crazy for me on Thursday.
No, I love the Thursday night games.
And that makes sense because the game starts a little later for you too. The game always starts at 5:15. It's like on a Thursday, it's like I'm still finishing up stuff, never able to get home in time for it. So that one's a tough one for me. Like I'd rather have the doubleheader if they started the second one, Jimmy, like at 7 p.m. Because then for me, it's like, okay, I can watch it till 10 and be able to go to work the next day.
So the second game would start tentatively at 10:30 East Coast time?
That's what they used to do. I think that's what they used to do back in the day.
Not 10:30. I think
7 o'clock they would start it. I know that.
I heard
Okay,
that.
9 o'clock.
I heard
9
that
o'clock
you-
start time. Okay, but like,
Yeah, no, I don't think that one too. Go ahead, Brian. What were you saying?
I was saying the cable company hated them doing the mesh start because I think the only one that you could actually watch both of them at once was YouTube TV because you can watch 2 games at the same time.
I just don't know what you're thinking, like for your fan base and your audience. Like if I'm watching game 1 and I've taped game 2, I don't want you looking in on game. Like I like stay away, or if like vice versa. Like I purposely don't want you tuning in so I can watch it later. If I was a hardcore fan like that and wanted to watch it. Okay, so we got those 2 games tomorrow, doubleheader. Let's look ahead quickly to game 4 as we're starting to get to the very end of the show here, or to week 4 here. We got Falcons at Jaguars. That'll be an interesting game next week. That's in London. That's the first one there. So it's not there. Then we got Dolphins, Bills, Jimmy. That's a big one as well. I feel like not a big game, but an 0-3 game. Broncos at Bears. That should be it. Revs Steelers at Texans. He had that one. To me, that's not a huge game. And then
Stroud.
Your Bengals play at Tennessee. That will be a tough game for them, I'm assuming, as well. And then, like I said, I think it would have been a big game. Chiefs at Jets. It's not going to be the case. And then Monday night, you got Seahawks at Giants. And based on that, the only one that really sticks out to me, Jimmy, just right away, is maybe that Lions-Packers one on Thursday. Actually, is kind of a decent game.
Yeah, that's going to be good.
Yeah. What do you got,
I like
Jimmy?
that one. I think that my favorite is going to be, Tennessee experienced that Cleveland steamer from Deshaun Watson this weekend. And then next week, they're going to get the Cincinnati twist. So they're going to take 2 L's to Ohio teams back-to-back weeks. And whether the Bengals win this week or not, I am confident that we'll be able to beat the Titans because I'm pissed off at Derrick Henry. He got me -1 points in fantasy.
I mean, Tannehill put up a stinker today.
Oh, man.
Tannehill's not the answer. I don't know if Levis is the answer. Tennessee sucks.
Patriots at Cowboys, Raiders at Chargers, and like I said, Cardinals at Niners, Chiefs at Jets is your night and Sunday night games there this week. So that's the look ahead to week 4. Gentlemen, as we kind of wrap it up here on the show, Jimmy, who do you got for your game balls this week in week 3? You got anybody you want to kind of hand out a few to?
Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen gets my game ball because he threw a touchdown pass. He was always there when Justin Herbert needed something. They didn't make, like I said, you didn't get off Elimination Island, but you relied on your best player when you were on Elimination Island, and you got yourself another week. You've earned 1 more week. So let's see if you get that rose, but Keenan Allen gets a game ball because he helped me make it look respectable in fantasy, and I appreciated that. He
was pretty good, though, in that game as well. And who's the other guy? Williams. He came up with a big touchdown, 49-yard touchdown pass catch.
I think that was from Keenan Allen.
Yeah, it was. That was exactly who that was from. So that was kind of funny that they connected. Williams helped me on my side for fantasy in that regard, so I appreciate that. Brian, you got a game ball?
Yeah, the whole Miami Dolphins offense.
Dude, just stupid today. They made it look easy. In the Broncos, they made it look even easier because you're turning it over, 90-degree heat. You're kind of you're not giving up, but it's just like one thing after the other. It comes out, especially that play where they fumble out, they return it to the 4-yard line. Next play, Mostert runs it in.
Like Braxton Berrios looks like Barry Sanders.
Exactly. Like just dominating them. Denver's like, get me out of this 90-degree Miami heat. Let me get back to Colorado.
We were at lunch. My brother's girlfriend kept looking up. Oh, at least there's only 8 minutes left. And by the time she looked up and it was 8 minutes to 7 minutes left, the Dolphins scored 2 more times. Like what just happened? It's like, yeah, no, there's only 8 minutes left, but now there's only 6 minutes left, and they can still get the ball back and score.
Like, what are we doing right now? What is this? My game ball goes to Mostert, 4 touchdowns for the Dolphins, 3 rushing, 1 receiving. I know they got 70, but that's still pretty good. He gets the game ball, 4 touchdowns there this week. I don't know. Another one was the team didn't score unreal, but I thought Jared Goff played really well this week and really bounced back and had some a good game against the Falcons. So I thought he got a game ball. Desmond Ridder did not play well. Sorry, John, they're out of your Falcon one. He did not look good.
Starting fantasy quarterback, John. My starting fantasy. I've listened to you. I bought your shtick. I bought your penny stock. I'm going to the SEC. I'm getting my money back.
I want the money back.
Your penny stock quarterback.
Hit the penny stock. That's great. And they're coming off a loss there against them. So we'll see who did I say they play next week? I think I said they ended up playing. Gosh, who was it?
Do they have a bye? Maybe they'll get a freaking win.
I thought they played the Saints. Did they play a bye? I thought they played
Jaguars.
The
They play in London, 7:30, so nobody's going to watch except for
John,
you, Jordan Belfort.
So that means I'd have to get up at 6:30 to watch this game for that to happen. This game, I do that, and then that means if you're Hawaii, 3:30. That's tough. No, just kidding.
We all know Hawaii loves their football and being punctual to things.
I've already said, Jimmy, that'd be funny. 7 a.m. You have to watch football. 10 p.m. 10
It's 7:30 for me.
That'd be great on that. So our last little Sunday night update here: 23-7. Steelers have the ball. 12 minutes and 30 seconds left. Looks like they're going to go to 2-1. Looks like the Raiders are going to drop to 1-2 on the year. Unfortunately, Jimmy,
I forgot that you could score more than 7 points.
It's not I'm taking it.
I'm used to that Jimmy look that they showed it right before the commercial break where
the devilishly handsome one.
He gives the Jimmy look like, what happened?
What happened out there?
The confused Mimbo Hunter look.
And Jimmy, this week on the beginning of Fat Boy Fadeaway, we talked. Me and my brother did a segment with Brian, and Brian was a good sport about it, especially after last week's talk of the gridiron, where he was absolutely on fire. We said you're a little obsessed with Jimmy, so we had a little intervention with him. My brother thinks he has a little love fest with him, so we talked about it. Brian's going to try to do his best not to talk about Jimmy G anymore. So that was our goal.
You guys watch Austin Powers? He's the male version of a fembot. I think that's the scary thing about him being loosed in Las Vegas, Nevada, is that it's just he's got a new wave of people constantly coming in. He goes out to a casino. Oh my God, that's Jimmy Garoppolo.
Let's get it out there.
And he just goes, yes, and then just machine guns out of the chest. Why do you have those? It's a fault in my design. I don't know. I don't know how to score more than 7 points, but I got these.
So we did that on this week, Fat Boy Fadeaway. You got far on the bench Thursday this week. Where are you guys going?
Yeah, we got far on the bench Thursday. We're going to recap the PLL championship. The Archers win their first championship in club history and stave off the back-to-back performance from the Water Dogs. It was a great game down the stretch. So I'm making a video now that'll have like kind of the finishing touches of that game on it, and then top of the mountain back on Friday. I think Sunday Scaries is just going to be every other week because it's a lot for 3 shows a week, but every other week. And that'll be on Sunday. So got those 3 things coming up. Be sure to follow at FEOTV Pod. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, which you can also watch this show on. We simul stream it through the VSN and our feed. So if you follow us, you subscribe to us, subscribe to both places, and help out both pages because it's been awesome so far. We've seen a lot of growth, especially recently.
Yeah, we really have. And like I said, like I mentioned that too. I'm also doing the 7th inning stretch. Be sure to check those out. We'll be doing those on Tuesdays now with Josh. We're going to try to get Mike McHenry on again here, hopefully next Monday, though. He does an announcer for the Pirates and ex-catcher. So with playoffs starting baseball, me and Josh were looking to get him on. So I know some of you guys, some of your team, some of you guys focus on fall. Nothing gets better to me than October baseball. That's when it really starts to matter.
I loved Rocktober when it was a thing.
The Rockies, you don't get that very much out there with Rocktober. Brian, you guys are doing TMB podcast this week as well. Going to be previewing the Niners against the Cardinals here with Tyler.
Yeah. And we're going to be talking about Mike Florio kind of stuck his foot in his mouth. And
yeah, what a stupid comment. Purdy doesn't sound like a quarterback name. Is that the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life?
Yeah, I said it sounds more like Turdy.
I mean,
why would you say that?
Because I think sometimes, honestly, I think this is like, because Jimmy just mentioned like doing a show 3 times a week. Like seriously, sometimes my brain, when I do 3 shows a week, which I do right now, is like kind of is like too much. He does a show every day, 5 days a week, and then writes articles. I bet sometimes he just has ideas, and they're like, "That's why you just keep away right there. You're just trying to come up with content at that point."
You know what it really was?
What's that?
ChatGPT. Produce a new piece of content that will leave NFL readers scratching their heads. What is he talking about? And be like,
That's what this-
yeah, no, this is what happened.
And he still owed a pie in the face because 2 years ago he said the Niners were going to get Tom Brady. He said, if it doesn't happen, I'll take a pie to the face. So I want George Kittle to come on, before week 5 and put a pie in Mike Florio's face.
Maybe eventually it will happen. I wouldn't be surprised. There's a lot of them that want to see it. Hey, before we get out of here, I got to show this play here. To me, this was the play of the day here. Texans guy running. Then we'll call it. Then we'll get it out of here on the show here. Here we go here with it. All right, my guy here on the return.
Standing career as the ball is bobbled and it's picked up by the fullback, and he's got running room. Andrew Beck, after Boone couldn't handle it, it's still going. Beck, he's gonna go all the way in. Did you see
Fullback. It's a shame Nico's not on the show for this.
I had to add that in, Jimmy, for that play of the day. That was such an awesome play there. The way Lee galloped at the end. I was thinking of Nico with that one, too.
Fat guys are people, too. Just remember that. Fullbacks, linemen, kickers, punters, I guess. We can count punters.
Some punters probably not. For Jimmy Pilato, far into the bench, Brian Johnson. I'm Darren Bryan. That was a fun show, guys, this week. We'll see you next week. Peace.
Hey, this is Brandon, CEO of the Variety Sports Network. Thank you again for watching tonight's show. Best way you can support us is by hitting that subscribe button, that like button, and hitting the notifications so you don't miss out on the next show right here on the